It's 6:30. I hereby call this meeting to order. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. We'll observe a moment of silence. Thank you. Next, we have a presentation for the bronze level bicycle-friendly community, and I'd like to call Keith Larson to meet me at the podium.
Madam Mayor, I would like to invite all the cyclists that are present in today's audience to come forward. Please come on forward. Well, I guess normally they do the photo this way. Yeah?
Sure.
Okay, so if everyone could line up from there to there, okay, facing this direction, okay, there we go. Awesome. So you can hold on to that. Come on up here in the center here. Okay. So Peachtree City has been recognized again as bicycle-friendly community by the League of American Bicyclists for 2023 and 2027. As a representative, I'm making this presentation. Rejoining 280 other cities in the United States and 11 other communities in Georgia with this status. This is the third renewal at the bronze level, starting first in 2014 and repeating in 2019. The rigorous process application is now a 92-page equivalent survey with supporting documentation with broad city staff input, including plans, assistant city manager, public works, parks and recreation, and of course, our police department, okay, and our city clerk, okay, and a public survey, which is intended to evaluate the state of bicycling and work towards ways to improve the quality of life, sustainability, and active transportation options for more people. The survey included critically examining the bicycle network and end-of-trip facilities, bicycle activities, public safety measures, and end-of-trip facilities, city budget, staff support, and adopted public policies. Our report card will provide ways and means for Peachtree City to continue to improve bicycling and move up to the silver level. Local residents know well that bicycling is about mobility, sustainability, health, safety, and so much more. Bicycle-friendly communities have a strong bike culture and are great places to live, work from home, and visit when possible. Tonight, we have in attendance representatives from the numerous bicycle clubs, teams, and businesses active in the community. First of all, I am Bike Walk Fayette with the League of American Bicyclists, your bicycle community advocate. Next, we have Atlanta Trek, our gold level bicycle-friendly business. Southside Cycle Club, Ladies on Spokes, Unity Riders, Peachtree City BMX, Southwest Atlanta Youth Mountain Bike Team, or SWAG, Tri Peachtree City, and Cycle Pass Gravel Club with Mountain Bike Atlanta. This growing list shows how popular cycling is and means to our residents in our city. So again, I want to thank the city staff for your broad support, the city council, and all the residents of Peachtree City to make Peachtree City a bicycle-friendly community. Thank you.
This is just yet another opportunity for the whole city to see not just the size of the group, but your ongoing dedication to making sure that Peachtree
Keith, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks, Keith. We're gonna lose a lot of people. Get the hardcore left.
All right, do we have announcements, awards, or special recognition? No. Public comment.
We have no one sign up to speak.
Agenda changes, council? Okay.
Oh, man.
Minutes, A, January 25th and 26th, 2024 City Council Retreat Minutes. Can I get a motion?
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve the January 25th and 26th City Council meeting retreat minutes. Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Minutes, B, February 1st, 2024 regular meeting minutes, February 1st, 2024 executive session minutes. Can I get a motion?
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve items B and C of the minutes.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Consent agenda items, A, stormwater facility maintenance agreements for multiple private developments. B, purchase of RAMs, extrication equipment for apparatus in the fire department. C, Fayette County Development Authority grant application, State Road 54 Huddleston intersection improvement. And D, purchase of lighting fixtures for the Fred Brown Jr. Amphitheater. Can I get a motion?
Madam Mayor, I make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Old agenda items, we have none. New agenda items, 22403, resolution to transmit proposed local amendment to plumbing code to the DCA. Robin Caillou.
This is one of the few presentations I make now. My ears are all stuffed up, so I can't tell. There it is. Okay. One of the few presentations I make that doesn't have the public comment section in front of it. So, as I've mentioned at your last meeting, this is a project that has been outlined in the Metro North Georgia Water Planning District. As a reminder to everyone who hasn't been to previous meetings, there are 11 water planning districts in the state, and we are in the Metro North Georgia, Fayette County is. And they adopted a plan as required by the state law in 2022 that creates projects that various entities have to implement. This project is item WSEC-8, and it requires us to update our local plumbing code. And to do that, we must tonight, hopefully, adopt a resolution to the DCA and then transmit the proposed ordinance modifications to them for a 60-day review, after which we'll return back to you with a adoption motion. And then after that, the new code begins to become applied during inspections on new building permits. Just a brief summary of what this what this water code includes. It reduces maximum flow in bathroom and kitchen fixtures, adds water cooling tower efficiency standards. It adds minimum standards to irrigation, landscape irrigation fixtures. Doesn't require irrigation, but if you do have irrigation that's tied to a public system, the fixtures have to meet these new minimum standards. It expands golf courses' ability to use reclaimed septic wastewater for irrigation of the greens, and adds reference to the ANSI Water Efficiency Code as acceptable engineering design practices when you're designing water systems. I do have the building code official here if you have any specific questions about the proposed ordinance. Otherwise, staff requests the adoption of the resolution to transmit so that we can begin that 60-day review.
Council, any questions?
I have a comment for you, if you don't mind. This is required by both the state and the federal, or just the state?
So this is as far as I'm aware, this is a state requirement.
Okay.
There may be federal reasons why the state created these water districts, but I don't know exactly. I just have the Georgia law requirements.
Having been in the business a long time, this looks very familiar, and I've seen it other places, so I'm gonna guess the feds have got their fingerprints all over this, but that's okay. It's good. It's good as far as I'm concerned.
Understood.
All right, can I get a motion?
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we accept the resolution as written.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. New agenda item B, 22404 benefactor naming request by Rotary Club of Peachtree City, Francis Metters, Council Chambers. The first thing I'll note for City Council is this actually is not a benefactor naming request, it's a commemorative, just like the second one we're gonna address here in a minute. Francis Metters, we're so fortunate in Peachtree City to have people around who were our founders, and Francis Metters is certainly one of them. In 1972, Francis moved to Peachtree City with her husband and her children. Her husband Larry worked for Delta Airlines, and they wanted to raise their children in a quality Peachtree City environment, and they were drawn here to the better schools. 6 months after moving here in 1973, Francis got a call about an application to work in Peachtree City, fledgling little Peachtree City, and became our first city clerk. What she found was that as city clerk, she could maintain records for the city. In essence, she was the town historian. And with that went knowledge of the politics of the city, and from that point in time, how to get anything done. And she still knows how to get anything done in Peachtree City. She worked with Mayor Harold Morgan, who wanted to establish meticulous record-taking. She took minutes at all the city council and planning commission meetings and did all of the agendas. She remembers well one of the first meeting minutes she recorded when property taxes were first established in Peachtree City. In her first years, she spent most of her time authorizing building permits, keeping up with revenue, and working with builders on inspections. At first, she and the police chief were the only two employees of the city of Peachtree City. And as it got busier, she needed help. Fred Brown, who was the mayor from 1982 to 1991, used to accuse Francis of doing his job. And he claimed that she's the one who has trained all of the mayors, and I think she did that for many, many years. In 1987, Rotary International had just for the first time approved women for membership in Rotary clubs, and she was the first female member. From 93 to 94, she was the Rotary Club president. By the time Francis retired from Peachtree City in 1995, she had worked for 4 mayors, Morgan, Frady, Fred Brown, and Bob Lennox. She had become a certified city clerk and a certified finance officer. They had named her Finance Officer of the Year. Her job became a director of administrative services, and she was supervising 15 of the city's 140 employees. Being retired from Peachtree City later didn't slow her down. She kept busy with the Rotary Club, racking up individual recognitions and numerous accomplishments, some of which she is most proud of included founding the political forums held prior to each local election that have now become a community tradition, the building of the gazebo at 3 Ponds in memory of Luther Glass, the first president of the Peachtree City Rotary, the Peachtree City welcome sign for civic clubs at Highway 54 and 74, and projects for outfitting underprivileged children with helmets and bikes. If ever there was a city matriarch, it is Francis Metters. Our proposal tonight is to name City Council Chambers the Francis Metters Council Chambers. Council, any discussion?
I would just like to say that I was fortunate enough to have met her. I don't know have any other council members that have done that, but not that I've been here from '78, I haven't. But she used to actually come over to the planning commission meeting. I was on the planning commission for 11 years, and I actually met her through Scott it's through Scott. And she's a wonderful woman. Everything you read here was just a small summary of what she's done.
That's right.
So I fully endorse this.
That's right. Thanks very much. She's been a mentor and a friend to me over the many, many years in Peachtree City. Can I get a motion?
Madam Mayor,
I'll do that. Madam Mayor, may I make a motion that we approve this commemorative naming, item B, on item 022404, requested by the Rotary Club of Peachtree City for Francis Metters Council Chambers.
second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item C, 22405, commemorative naming request for the Ralph N. Jones Memorial Boat Ramp at the Pinecrest Boat Docks area. Ralph Jones, of course, became the second mayor of Peachtree City in 1966, and he served as mayor through 1969. As mayor, Ralph Jones purchased the city's first fire truck, that adorable retro vehicle over at Pascal Fire Station where we take pictures. Ralph bought that fire truck. He began Peachtree City's first fire services and started the police department. In 1968, he built the first fire station. Ralph was a founding member of Peachtree City's first church, which was the First Presbyterian Church. In 1966, he served as an elder, sang in the choir, served on many committees, and co-chaired the building committee that built the new sanctuary that we see now in 1998. Also in 1998, he purchased the church organ in honor of his wife Brownie's dedication to the music program there. He was a member of the Peachtree City Development Authority from 1970 to 1986. Ralph was a founding member of the Peachtree City Rotary Club. He was president from 1971 to 72 and stayed a member until his death in 2009. He was on the committee to create the first Rotary phone book starting in 1972, which was first published in 1974. Ralph was in charge of distribution, and those phone books raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for the Rotary Club over the many years. He organized the annual golf tournament to raise funds for the club's scholarship fund, and he successfully raised money for the city athletic fields equipment, Fayette County High School industrial arts program, and an area Girl Scout camp. He had a military career in the Army and was instrumental in starting Boy Scouts in Peachtree City. Ralph owned and operated 2 Valvoline businesses in Peachtree City starting in 1993. He also operated Maybe Bell Industries, which was later called Exposaic Industries, on Dividend Drive, a precast company on Dividend Drive. It was Maybe Bell and Pascal who were the first 2 significant industries in our industrial park in Peachtree City. Third mayor, Chip Connor, likes to remember Ralph by saying his famous phrase was, "I'm working on it." And Chip says, if Ralph said he was working on it, that meant it was going to get done. Whatever it was going to get done. The proposal we have before us tonight is for a monument sign and a picnic table at the Pinecrest Boat Ramp area. This is a locally used area that is currently unnamed, so in a sense, we're creating a park where there was none. And it will be named the Ralph N. Jones Memorial Boat Ramp. I want to point out to council that I would suggest that we also include adoption of a not-to-exceed figure of $7,000 for a line item that will cover the cost of the 1 monument sign, 1 picnic table, and while we're at it, we really need to replace the existing bench that's out there because it's in pretty poor condition. So that would be my suggestion for council.
Madam Mayor, are we okay doing that as an adoption on that? Is
Yes.
that- I see head shaking.
Yes.
Okay, I'm good with that.
Any questions?
Oh. You want a motion, Madam Mayor?
Yes, please.
I make a recommendation that we accept item number 022405, the commemorative naming request for Ralph M. Ralph N. Jones with a funding source of $7,000 that we'd add,
Not to exceed.
not to exceed $7,000.
You phrase that as a recommendation to accept. Correct.
I make a motion to
A
approve.
motion to accept.
A motion to accept.
Thank you.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you so very much. And their families are here tonight.
Congratulations. That's the first one that, since I've been on, I know the mayor has been fighting for this for quite a while. She got the consensus of all of us, so let's make sure that she gets the kudos for this, because she went to all of us to make sure we were on board and that all the details were done by our clerk and all the boxes were checked to make sure that we followed the law before we were able to name this after these two worthy people and citizens of this community.
True.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Public hearings, we have none. Council staff topics, 54 reliever study, and this conversation is a carryover from our workshop of last week. Councilmember Holland has done a lot of legwork on traffic and transportation, so I'm going to let him take the microphone.
Well, thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for letting me head up this topic here. And just a little reminder, we've had 4 studies since 2001. There have been a variety of studies on traffic. There have been a variety of studies on east side, west side, traffic flows, reliever studies, et cetera. But we've never really had a good study on the full corridor of 54. And I'll talk a little bit about that. But this council has inherited a 20-year mess of State Route 54. It has certainly been an 800-pound gorilla. And pretty much all of our rooms that we've talked about to citizens, et cetera, what are you going to do with this problem of 54, 74, and the Route 54 itself? It's been a difficult situation. Everyone on the city council has made a promise when they campaigned that they'll work on this. And today, we're going to start. We're going to start working on it with this group of people who've agreed to start this process. We, this council, intend to start the process in fixing State Route 54 traffic that has been ongoing for 20 years. The buck stops at this council today. This is a multi-county complex traffic issue, and it's a real regional problem, not just a Peachtree City problem. I want to emphasize that. This is not just Peachtree City. It goes beyond our borders. Tonight, we'll start to take the long journey by taking that first step to the solution of this complex issue. The undertaking is going to be hard and it will be long. This is not a quick fix, but we must start now and to work together with our sister cities and sister counties. It will be an ever-going, if we are ever going to fix these traffic issues, not just for us, but for our children and our grandchildren. All of these complex traffic issues will probably need a definitive engineering traffic study. The study will have a setup of defined expectations from a connectivity working group. Now, we should look at that connectivity group. We should discuss and ask the city council to unite with the able assistance of our city manager to start the process of the connectivity working group with the surrounding municipalities, along with Fayette and Coweta County, to work together on a long-term solution to the 54 corridor. And now with the help, of course, of GDOT, ARC, and the state and federal agencies. And this was the directive from the Fayette County Comprehensive Transportation Plan 5 years ago. 5 years ago, this was said. You need to start doing this. And no one has taken the action until tonight. One final note. We can begin by deciding to reach out to the initial stakeholders. Those stakeholders are Fayette County, Coweta County, Fayetteville, Sharpsburg, Peachtree City, and possibly Tyrone and Sonoya to join together to fix this complex traffic issue we have dealt with certainly the 5 years that I've been here, and you've all been here longer than me, to deal with that. It's time that we start on the trek to get that done. And with that, Madam Mayor, you want to take the next and see what kind of council,
I would just like
Comments?
to kind of get a thumb on the pulse of city council members. Thoughts so far?
You wanna go first?
Well, I mean, when we discussed this in the workshop, I had said, yeah, I would like to get the information and see how much it would cost to do a study, how long that would take. This term connectivity working group, that's not one I'm familiar with. So what
it was in
exactly
the
does that
transportation
entail?
plan from 2019 of Fayette County. And they've asked us to do it, and we're one of the people that should be on that connectivity study. And the connectivity study really, this is just Clint speaking now, in my opinion, it basically goes from Fayetteville to Sharpsburg, and everything in between. That's the corridor that needs to be addressed in this study. I don't know if that helps you a little bit of
What
understanding
would be
on that.
step number one? Like what comes first?
I think we need to get with our city manager to have him make the reach out. They
I
gotta
do-
reach out to the people and see, we'd like to set this up. Are you in County of Fayette? Are you in County of Coweta? Are you in Fayetteville? Get those people to start to say, yeah, we'll get into that. Let's have our first meeting, and I don't wanna, this man is very busy, and we're trying to put a big 800-pound gorilla on his back. But at the same time, I know he's up for it, but I gotta let him do it in the right way. So I'll defer that answer to the guy to my right.
All right, those are all my questions.
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea. We've talked about it long enough. Having done a lot of traffic studies, a connectivity study, a working group, is all comprehensive. It's very detailed, and you gotta have a full buy-in on all those people that you're talking about. I know the mayor's worked on this for a long time, has had meetings with Coweta, has meetings with all these other counties, and we've never been able to get off the first step. So I'd be interested to see how you're gonna jumpstart this and get all their buy-in, other than just say, yeah, we're in. They gotta pony up and really show us that they wanna get involved.
Well said, Frank. I think
Good.
one of the starts is to get unanimity on this council. Unanimity on this council of saying, yes, we want to do it, is the first step, because once we're united to say that, when we go to the other counties and the other cities, we're going to tell them, we've got full cooperation of this council that wants to be involved. Not just two of us, or not just three of us, or just not a rogue individual.
I think that goes without saying.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, you led it, in the beginning, you talked about it. We've all said it, and we all wanna do it. So we gotta get together with the other councils and the other citizens and the other, individuals that are involved in it,
Good.
not just us.
Totally agree.
Good. Ms. Brown?
Yes, what I've observed is, just in the last few years, we've seen a lot of additional traffic burden added to what is already, what we can easily justify as a significant problem here in Peachtree City. And by that, I mean that they've now started building the QTS data center, and they have the plans for the soccer center, all of which is gonna figure into the 54 traffic. No matter how we wanna chop this up, we have to come up with something that's gonna work, whether that's widening 54, widening part of it that goes through Peachtree City, looking at what can be done. The only caveat I'll make to the whole thing is that I've been very adamant through my entire campaign that I do not want to see TDK Boulevard opened up, because I think that that provides a solution for Coweta County and a bigger problem for Peachtree City. So that is something I would not entertain. But 54, that's there's a lot that can be done on 54. I think we need to work with every community that uses it, that their citizens pass through it, And that involves everything, possibly even Noonan. We may have to reach out to Noonan and get Noonan involved, because a lot of people who live in Noonan
We've thought about that.
go all the way through to Fayetteville.
We've thought about that, Suzanne, and
So,
I agree
yep.
with you. But at the same time, this focus is on the 800-pound gorilla, which is 54 from east to west.
Right.
That's what this is, at least in my mind. So and that's something I'll certainly hope that Bob can put together those people so we can
Well,
have that
let's
discussion.
talk about our takeaway. I
Yep.
think it's fair to say that City Council of Peachtree City has full support for the connectivity working group that was recommended in the last comprehensive transportation plan. I would think that we need to let Bob get through a lot of projects right now. We just saw 15 in an engineering workshop alone, and we have budget right around the corner. But I would hope that by early summer, we could identify our stakeholders and our partners and start talking about getting together. That's what I think is the best move forward. Any thoughts on that, Bob?
No, I think the key is identifying all the stakeholders and then putting a plan together that actually talks about the communication. The communication is going to be key here. So from a staff perspective, we can certainly identify who those people are, but I also believe that it's going to be important that the commissions on those counties as well have a
Yes.
political representation here from our council to
Correct.
work, hand in hand on that process. So we can certainly identify all the stakeholders and then come back with a plan if that's what the council is interested in seeing, that would identify that and kind of taking that forward.
I'm sure the rest of the councils and the rest of the representatives are going to want to know cost. So
Agreed.
somewhere down the beginning, we're going to have to try to do a rough cost estimate so that then when you go to Coweta, you go to Sharpsburg, you go to somebody, they're going to say, well, how much is this going to cost us?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. All right. Anything more? Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Holland. Council staff topics?
I have one. Madam Mayor, if you'll forgive me for reading this. I'd like to discuss the senior tax exemption and the serious concern that I have about the desperate need to update the parameters of the exemption and what would be involved in doing that update. Well, I want to assure council that I'm directing my comments to the council. I also feel it's necessary for our citizens to understand this discussion. To accomplish that, I want to outline a few details about the senior tax exemption so everyone is on the same page. In 2005, the citizens of Peachtree City enacted through a referendum vote a senior tax exemption. It only affects the Peachtree City portion of a resident's property taxes. To qualify, you must be over 65, have a maximum combined household income of $30,000 or less, and already be approved by Fayette County for a homestead tax exemption, which means that you must own your home, your condo or townhouse, and it must be your primary residence. If you meet those criteria, you have to apply for the Peachtree City senior tax exemption through City Hall in order to get it. And in fact, they're accepting applications right now for the next tax year. I believe, Jasmine, the deadline is April the 1st, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. But if you are approved for the senior tax exemption, it would lower the assessed value of your home by $5,000 when calculating the Peachtree City portion of your property tax bill. Back in 2005, that meant your Peachtree City tax would be reduced by about $34. And in 2024, that means your Peachtree City tax would be reduced by about $40. The goal of relieving some of the tax burden on lower income senior citizens is simply not being achieved by a $40 reduction in today's economy. So why and how did that happen? As I outlined on January 4th, once the senior tax exemption was voted into place, no further adjustments or changes were ever made to the qualifying parameters or the amount of assessed value that was reduced. They failed to add a clause to establish a standard percentage annual increase to both the maximum income and appraised value exemption. So over the last 19 years, as the cost of living has increased, Social Security, pensions, and other fixed incomes were increased, but not the senior tax exemption. Those parameters didn't change. Many have likely lost the exemption that they may have qualified for as their income exceeded the $30,000 maximum. Yet even last year, we had about 80 seniors who did qualify. That's right, 80 people gave us their income information to save $40. My guess is that seniors who qualify have lived in their homes for a long time, may have lost a spouse, which cut their income significantly. Most of them cannot simply go get a job for more income. When I used the cost of living data from the Social Security Administration website, and the household income maximum should have been increased from $30,000 to over $44,000 in today's dollars. And the tax exemption that should have increased, or the exemption amount from the property tax appraised value, should have been increased from $5,000 to over $7,500. Property values, however, have in Peachtree City have increased at a higher rate than the cost of living, making it more appropriate to raise the tax exemption a little higher. In fact, maybe a lot higher. I say it should be increased to $15,000 or even $20,000 off the appraised value of a house if we move forward with this. And even at $15,000, that would only reduce a resident's Peachtree City portion of the tax bill by about $150. And at $20,000, it would still be less than $200 off of their tax bill. So if 80 people qualify at that the amount, at the new amount, that would still only be $16,000 of reduced revenue. And even if 4 times as many people can qualify, it's still going to be under $65,000 of lost tax revenue. I think we can afford that. Maybe that's not even high enough to have the correct effect for the senior citizens involved. It's clear to me that the attempt to help our lower income seniors has failed. But we can fix this and show compassion for valuable members of our community. I'd like to see the exemption increased to $20,000 and the household maximum income raised to $45,000 with an annual increase of $3,000 to both parameters. It may still slowly be whittled away, but not for a long time. I did ask Ted Meeker, our city attorney, for the documents that he had on file from the 2005 resolution and referendum. He provided them to me. I forwarded a copy to all of the city council members. Ted outlined the steps that we will have to follow in order to get this done. The first thing, council has to approve a resolution. Then we have to run an ad in the paper the week before the bill is introduced to the legislature. The bill will be introduced, our local delegates will take care of it going through. Once approved, council calls for a special election to consider the referendum on the issue. And if approved by referendum, it becomes effective January the 1st of 2025. I believe legislative action on a municipal issue can be approved outside the legislative session calendar, which is a big bonus because our legislative session is so short. I spoke to 2 Georgia reps already, Josh Bonner and Karen Mathiak. They're on board and prepared to do whatever we need them to do. I will speak to Marty Harbin and Representative Derek Jackson if the council wants to proceed with this. So I would like to discuss this and know each council member's thoughts. Can we move forward with staff updating the historic paperwork to put this to a new vote? I'd be glad to help in any way that I can, whether that's making the changes to the old paperwork to update it or whatever needs to be done to make this happen. But please, can we get this done?
Question? The question that I have, is this going to be just for Peachtree City or is this all of the county?
Peachtree City.
Just Peachtree City?
We only have the authority to make this kind of a recommendation for people who are residents of our own municipality.
But does everybody in the county vote?
No.
No.
Only Peachtree City would vote. It becomes a referendum vote in a special election that would only be in Peachtree City.
Thank you.
I have a question for Ted. Pitfalls, if we start down the path on this, what would be things we've got to pay attention to not get into trouble before we submit anything?
Legally, none.
Okay?
The only question I have is, historically, exemptions don't have escalator clauses. The exemption is what's voted on. Having said that, if we put that forward to legislative council and they bless it, then by all means, council can try that.
So this would be an escalator?
No, an
year
annual
to
increase
year
is
or
what he's
something like
talking
Then
about.
there was, yes, if there was some sort of an escalator clause based on cost of living or.
I think it has to be a fixed number from what
That's-
I've researched.
That's my understanding, yeah. If you want to raise it again, we have to go through the process you're
Right.
talking about going through now.
Okay.
Right,
But-
so I don't want to do this and then have some other council have to do it in another 5 years or 10 years or 15 years, or in this case, 19 years. You know, it would be nice to try to put like a 3% escalation each year in, if we could,
That's what I'm not sure we can legally do.
right.
But again, if we put that under legislative council's nose and they bless it and it goes, then the voters get to decide. So,
Excuse me.
but I don't,
Might fall off.
I've not seen
Yeah.
another jurisdiction get an exemption. I've always understood the rule to be every time you want to update it, it has to go back through the same process that the original one went through. So,
But we can try.
We can ask questions and
Right.
find out,
Right.
absolutely.
Okay.
As far, and the only other thing is just budgetary impact, but
Right.
that's not legal, that's
Yeah.
budgetary.
Yeah, I'd like to learn more.
I would too.
Yeah, I had a quick
I would
question.
too.
I heard you say a 3% increase, and then I also heard a 3,000 per year increase,
No, 3%.
so 3%. And I guess like, that was just my question, like, does that ever max out? And like, how did you come up with 3%? Like, at some point.
If you look at cost of, excuse me, if you look at cost of living numbers and the social security index, and you try to figure out what the average is, about 3% is about right. And actually, if you look at the property tax values and how they've increased, I mean, here in the last 3 or 4 years, we've seen a 20% increase in just 3 or 4 years for the property appraised values. So 3% probably is not enough for that, but you have to pick a number and then stick with it. Because I mean, once you put it in the proposal,
Yeah.
that goes to the legislature, you're locked in.
And when you're saying you have reps on board, have they seen your entire plan, or was this just kind of like a casual conversation?
I asked them if I could count on them for support, and Josh Bonner said at the legislative reception the other night, he said absolutely, and I called Karen Mathiak and spoke with her. She's on board. She said, whatever you need us to do to get it into the House, onto the floor, push it through.
So it's somewhat casual. They haven't actually seen
I
anything.
haven't written out the whole thing, no. But I did explain what the tax exemption is that's currently in place. We're not looking to start something new, we're just looking to update the numbers to a more appropriate
I understand.
current, yeah.
I
So,
just don't necessarily always agree that our legislature's gonna get behind us 100%.
it's an election year.
Point-
Generally, on local legislation, they're pretty responsive. If it's a unanimous decision by the city council asking for local legislation, they are typically very responsive to it,
Thank you.
to their
And,
credit.
and this comes from a referendum in a municipal special election?
Yeah.
Yes.
And
I
that would,
believe it can be done in conjunction with the November election, though.
what
So-
would,
Yeah, I think Jasmine looked at that a little
That's
bit.
Yeah.
correct. If we call the special election, if council calls a special election at least 90 days prior, that is correct. However, we would still end up paying for the special election, which is typically around $60,000 if we had a separate election this year on our own.
Well, that might be where we have to start our paper ballots and hand counting.
Well, I know one concern that was brought up before was 2 separate voting locations, and that would also be another issue if they had to be held separately. So if we do it 90 days and the county runs the elections, then it could be at one location. However, we would still, I don't anticipate it exceeding $60,000. However, that would probably be the max cap, because that's what we paid for the last special election. But at that time, we had to separate the polling locations. If we called it with the 90 days prior to the actual election, we could hold it at the same time as the general election, and they could be held at the same locations.
Well, it wouldn't even have to be held at all of the same locations. We could actually restrict it to just being held here in Peachtree City. it would not, for early voting, it would not even have to be held at the other early voting locations other than the library. That would also,
It would still be a cost to the city for,
or we could switch to paper ballots.
Back to the issue at hand. I am interested in learning more.
So am I, and I do have one question. It's really pointed at the fellow to my right, the city manager. This is another issue. You've just gotten hit with a sledgehammer that I gave you with my stuff. Now you've got another one. These are all important things for the citizens of this city. And it does put a little bit of a burden on you, but do you want to comment at all, or at this point just suck it up and take care of it?
Well, I think if the council is giving me direction to prioritize this, it's the council's decision. We'll work on the prioritization. The only thing that concerns me is what Jasmine was talking about, our clerk, in reference to the timing of when you want to get this done, because there are going to be certain requirements that we need to do as far as advertising, getting it in the paper, getting in front of the legislation for them to look at this, the data. I haven't even crunched the numbers to determine what the impacts of that were going to be. So, there are going to be some things that we need to do internally to obviously facilitate any of that conversation. And then the question comes in of the cost of actually running that election. The council would need to understand that there's going to be an additional cost of putting on that election process.
If that election were next year, then we still incur the $60,000.
No, we have an election scheduled next year, so it would just be on with the candidates. So it wouldn't be an additional election needed. This year is not, it's a even year, so it's only statewide general election. We don't have a current municipal election going on. So it would be a special election solely for municipal that will be on the same ballot with the general statewide election.
The only other thing I'll add, I did look up, Ms. Brown, you and I had an email about this. Today was day 21. Tomorrow is scheduled for day 22. Crossover day, I believe, is day 30.
It's the 29th of this month.
Okay. I know there are some exceptions to the crossover day rule for local legislation, so I think we'd be okay there. I would suggest that council consider doing something, I wouldn't say any later than the March 1st meeting. I think that if we're gonna take action, because if council took action, the ad would run in the paper the following week, and then the legislation could be introduced. That's, I guess, it's the second full week of March. And there should still be time. We just have to see where they're at on their calendar. But that's, just from a timing standpoint, I think council needs to have some discussions, because I think we're gonna need to act by March 1st.
I think this is
in order to get it done this year.
I think this is a great project for next year. I think it gives us all time to run the numbers, figure out 5,000, 15,000, 3%, something else. It minimizes the impact on staff. It still needs to be done, and I agree that it needs to be looked at. But to pay $60,000 for a special election this year for this purpose, when we could handily get it done next year.
Well, I can tell you, I fully support the concept of it, and I did not know all about these other extraneous things that Ted brought up and the cost brought up. I didn't know that. Otherwise, I would have been all in on this for this right now. But I think we should have the further discussions of not only all of us, but also with the city manager to find the time to do all the work that's necessary.
Yeah.
So I feel terrible saying I think we ought to postpone it, but not postpone it, but put it on next year's agenda to get it done in plenty of time, and it doesn't cost us a penny. It just goes right into the election process. And so I support it fully to do it.
Yes, Bob, you want to, other than a nod? I agree.
I'm not counting heads anymore.
I
So-
agree this is a good thing to do, but I also agree with the mayor that we ought to wait and get it done in the right time frame so it doesn't cost the city time and money. So, great idea, Suzanne, but I
agree.
do think we ought to
Fantastic
wait
idea.
until it fits better into the system for us.
Okay, the numbers are gonna be higher next year.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
by 3%.
touche. All right, anything else on the topic?
No.
Thank you for bringing it
ma'am.
up.
Do you want to talk about changing time for meetings?
Oh,
I don't,
Good point.
yeah, is it premature to talk about the potential to move some of our city council meeting dates to a morning time frame instead of an
No.
evening time frame?
Do
You
it.
know, a lot of us who have raised children here in Peachtree City know that you don't always have time when you're busy with kids in the evening to attend a city council meeting. And in order to maybe spread the opportunity for more parents and second shift workers to be able to attend city council meetings, we're looking at starting in April, potentially moving the second meeting of every month to a morning timeframe, and that would be 9:30 in the morning instead of 6:30 p.m. So same dates, first and third Thursday of every month like we've done for so very long, but the first meeting of the month would then customarily be 6:30 p.m. as always, and the second meeting of the month would be 9:30 a.m. And we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, we
So
can
that-
take,
That'll start in April. I think it's April 18th.
so we can look to see after we've done this for a few times, what kind of response that we get, and then make a further decision after that. But we don't know. But I think it's a good idea by Councilwoman Johnson on this thing, and I think I certainly am in support of it. But at the same time, we got to monitor what kind of results that we get before we can make it permanent.
All right. Thank you. Do we have executive session?
Yes, we do, Mayor. I'll be brief, I promise. Pending or threatened litigation and real estate.
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we go into executive session for real estate and
Pending or threatened
and
litigation.
pending or threatened litigation.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We are in